Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast, interview your ideal clients, and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to Experiments, your new podcast series about quick and actionable marketing and growth wins from marketing leaders who have done them. I'm David Kelly, a marketing and growth consultant for small businesses. And in today's episode, I have my good friend, Scott Tousley. Scott is the marketing mastermind for getting users to HubSpot's products. His official fancy title is Senior Team Lead Acquisition of All Products at HubSpot. And today, Scott shares real, actionable marketing advice to help you grow your business from 0 to 6 figures and then from 6 figures to 7 figures and everything in between. Specifically, you'll learn 3 key things. 1, how Scott's team at HubSpot approaches growth and marketing. Use these lessons for your own business. 2, Scott's favorite current marketing strategy that they're using at HubSpot right now. And 3, what we would both do if we are trying to grow a product from 0. Enjoy. Okay, so the first question I want to ask you, Scott, is about your favorite growth tactic happening right now at HubSpot. I think we could just jump into some really actionable marketing stuff. So what's going on at HubSpot that you're really excited about now in growth?
Okay, so there's a very smart individual at HubSpot. His name's Alex Burkett. He's based out of Austin, Texas. He's working on this concept that's like really starting to take off. That internally we call it like surround sound strategy, and essentially what that means is it runs with the notion that marketers are selfish. Like all we care about is how do we drive more traffic to our website. And
that's so true.
Yeah, like I don't care where it comes from, whether it comes from search or social or referral traffic or email. It doesn't matter. You're always looking at like, how do I get more traffic to my website?
Yeah.
But the reality is when we're trying to buy something, you don't go to one website. You go to multiple different websites when you're trying to make a purchasing decision. So for example, let's say you're in a new city. So I'm up in South Lake Tahoe right now. One search I just did recently was best bars in South Lake Tahoe. And,
Nice.
And what I was looking at was like, I wanted to see a list and I wanted to see some reviews from a couple different websites. Now, let's say I'm looking at, so David, you and I surf a lot together.
Oh, yeah.
In San Diego. So let's say I'm in the market for a new shortboard and I look up like best shortboards of 2019 or whatever. And so what I want to see is like, first I'll read one like listicle is what we call it. It's like the number, best, whatever. And then I'll see what's on there and then I'll go back and Google and then I'll like click on the next list. And then I'll see what's on there and then I'll go back and then I'll click on the next list. And then I'll like type in, I'll start to narrow my decision based on seeing the same thing over and over. Then once I narrow it down, then I do a versus search. So like Lost, Puddle Jumper versus Channel Islands, Average Joe, something like that, because I've narrowed my decision at that point. And so what we're trying to do at HubSpot right now is how do we figure out how to be everywhere? So when at all stages of like that purchasing decision, when you're like, what is the best blank that exists today? Well, there's a ton of lists that are out there and a ton of review sites in HubSpot's B2B software. So there's a lot of review sites that are out there just dominating search engines right now.
Yeah.
Like Capterra and G2 Crowd and
Yep.
Software Advice and that kind of stuff. And so a lot of those are pay to play. Like you got to pay to get listed on like what appears when you land via search. Most of them are, but listicles are free. And not only they're free to get added to, they're free to create. So that's kind of one of the biggest things we're working on right now is how do we change our mindset from being so obsessed about driving traffic to our website, and more so, how do we make sure that the HubSpot's brand is everywhere when you're doing your product research and you're on all different websites? And so we actually would sometimes prefer that we're on multiple different websites. We drive traffic to multiple different websites with us listed versus just to our own, because it's
Makes
kind of
sense.
social proof in itself.
Yeah, and the social proof is interesting, and I think you hit on a big thing, especially millennials do. And you and I have talked about this with the surfboards, and I do this with everything in my life. I even do it with things like blankets or like really simple things. It's really not worth the opportunity cost, but there is something there with making sure that people are listed in different places, especially if I have a product. So let's say I'm like Joe Schmo, random listener, and we have millions of listeners listening to this podcast right now. Everyone in the world is listening to this podcast right now.
Hundreds of millions, right?
That's right. Maybe even billions. I don't know. It gets too high at that point. But let's say I'm an average listener and I'm a small business owner and I'm trying to create my brand. I'm trying to market and grow my brand. How would you recommend someone actually get started with this surround sound strategy? What's the first step?
Man, the first step, well, if you're just getting started, unless you have a very niche product or service with extremely low search volume, you're not going to be ranking anytime soon, because I think we all know how long it takes to like actually get SEO traffic. So I wouldn't start with that. Probably a better move would be find someone who has like a listicle essentially of whatever your product is. Like, I don't know, what's an example? Surfboards?
Surfboards. Let's keep going down that path.
Cool. Surfboards. So let's say you're a surfboard company, and if someone's typing in like best surfboards 2019, and what you want to look at is where am I listed? If you're not listed anywhere, well, you're not doing a very good job with this whole like surround sound concept. So find out like who are those blog posts that are actually out there, and then find like the contact info and just offer to help that person in any way, shape, or form that you can to drive more traffic to their website. Like we use affiliate as like an incentive mechanism. Hey, if you promote our product and someone clicks on your link, like we'll give you a cut of revenue. That sometimes works with people. It sometimes doesn't. So if you're just getting started and you're a surfboard company, you could potentially run your product through like an affiliate network and get a link spun up for it. And then you can pass that off to other content creators.
Yeah.
That's potentially a way. We just try to think like every single time that we'd ask someone for anything, like how can we make sure we're providing more value than what we're asking for?
Yeah.
And for some, affiliate revenue is that value, and for others, it's a drop in a bucket because they're making tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and so getting like a couple $100 a month from affiliate, they're like, whatever, that's nothing for. But if you're a starting business or you're a solo blogger, you're like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll add your product on there.
I think that's a great point, and I think you hit on two really interesting things. The first is the law of reciprocation, right? And a lot of people, and you probably see these emails yourself, I get hit up every once in a while and it's like, yo, can you add my awesome product to your blog? And it's like, why would I ever do that?
It's annoying.
It's so annoying.
It's like, do you not
really
understand human behavior whatsoever? Like we're all driven by incentives. And of course, like we all want to help each other out, in some shape or form. But at the same time, like if you're not willing to like throw something out there to help me, or vice versa, if we're not throwing something out there to help the other person, there's a really good chance they're not going to respond or they're going to say no. And usually it's not responding.
Exactly. And then the other interesting thing you hit on is if I were someone new, would I do this? And I think there's real value to that, because a great example is we had this product at Sumo Group called SendFox, and we launched this new product from scratch. We built it to about a six-figure ARR company within 3 months, something like that. And we didn't do anything along the lines of trying to find backlinks or trying to do this surround sound methodology. To your point, what we did was available to us specifically around reaching out to people and just asking people to use our product. So we hit up friends, we hit up people in our network. We did a lot of things very basic that a lot of people hear about and they say, oh, that's like below me. Or, oh, like I want to automate the process. And there's a lot of value to just starting with a simple thing that even if isn't scalable, you can eventually become successful. And then you could figure out a way to scale in different mediums and different channels. So what other things do you think people could do if they're just starting out in growth and marketing and trying to grow their business?
Yeah, my favorite concept, so to speak, hands down 100% is Ramit Sethi's his notion of like go where the fish are.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating. And I've referenced that so many times. I think I've put enough damn fish emojis like in my presentations that everyone's like, all right, I get it. I get it. And the whole notion is like, just go where the fish are. So there you can go to like pond A and be fishing there all the time. But if there's, it's a huge volume of water and there's only a couple fish there, you're wasting your time. Mm. Whereas if there's a small pond, but there's a ton of fish and it's kind of like a secret fishing hole, like that's what you want to kind of look for. And so, of course, this is like a very high level analogy. So more specifically, first talk to the people who are your customers or potential customers. Yep. And figure out like, hey, what content do you enjoy reading? When you're searching for, it depends on like where we like to break things down in like the buyer's journey. So if you're not in the market for anything, just what are you reading? What are you listening to? What websites are you visiting? That kind of stuff. Are you on Reddit? What are the subreddits that you follow? Like, are you on Quora? And starting to figure out where are those like ponds that your fish are hanging out in? Like, where are the pockets of the internet? LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But figuring out where those people hang out and contributing valuable information, answering people's questions, providing some type of value is usually free. It's free and it's fascinating because you get to empathize with people and kind of get into the minds of like what they're thinking, what are the questions they're asking, what are their dreams in a sense, what are their like pains, what are their anxieties. And you really can discover that. It's best discovered talking to someone. The second best is contributing via a forum or a group or something like that. And then eventually getting to the point where you can start to promote your product a little bit here and there.
And it goes back to what we talked about with the law of reciprocation. And there are a lot of marketers out there and a lot of scammy products out there that'll try to tell you like, oh, this is how you guarantee backlinks, or this is how you buy backlinks, or this is how you gamify or get inside of XYZ area. Really, it takes time in a lot of ways. And we at Sumo Group have failed so many times. We've been banned from Reddit. We've done all these other things. And one of the things I've heard, which I really agree with more and more as time goes on, is if anyone were to do anything for a year, they would be successful. And that implies some other things too, like if you're iterating and understanding that you need to change, but consistency kind of unlocks the door to a lot of this stuff. So maybe you don't have any customers right now. Well, talk to people who you think would be a customer. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, ask your friends and family if they know anyone who would fit this persona that you're trying to go for. If they know any surfers, for example, to go back to the surfing example.
Yeah.
And then you could go from there. Maybe you find one person who's interested. So you talk to them and then they have a friend and then they have a friend. It's kind of like in dating or something like that, right? Like you find a friend, you're like, hey, like, do you have any single friends? Or you start hanging out with other groups, or you go to meetups or whatever it is. And you find just through that network, more people who are like you. And that's true with business as well and marketing as well. You don't have to start by pitching customers, by getting customers or by buying customers. Sometimes it just starts with talking with family members or friends or people that are similar to the customers that you want.
And one of my favorite like pieces of advice that I heard a really long time ago, probably like 6 years ago, was this 19-year-old. His name was Corey Levy. He raised, I don't even know, it was an absurd amount of money in the like millions from some VCs in San Francisco. And he was one of those 19-year-olds who just like knew everyone. It was kind of crazy. Like he was friends with Pitbull. He was friends with Pitbull.
It's the most random friendship I've heard.
I know. And so he has a text message from Pitbull based on a conversation they had, and Pitbull used what Corey said in his lyric.
Wow.
So what Corey was saying, and one thing he learned when he was raising venture capital is ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money. And I genuinely think that translates across anything. You can insert whatever you want there. Ask for advice, get blank, get a job, get cash, get placed somewhere if that's like what you're looking for. And I think that kind of translates to what you were saying as far as when you're in those communities, if you're asking for someone to check out your product, no one's going to check out your product. Like
right.
ask them of like, hey, you know, I've been trying to build this thing and I can't figure out what I'm doing. You know, I can't figure out how to get this thing to take off. Does anyone have any advice on like, what would you do if you were me? And I think when you see something like that, it tends to be more like, yeah, I'm happy to chip in and I'm happy to help out because we're just inclined to help. You know, we're humans. So that's something too that I would consider starting off as far as what could you do specifically. And one of those things is like, yeah, sure, go on the forums, ask people, but like ask for their advice too, because that actually might be a good entry point of them trying out your product.
Yeah. And I have a great example too of someone that did this to me. This guy named Brandon Fong. Shout out to Brandon if he's listening.
What up, Brandon?
You're right. He reached out to me about a year ago and he asked me some questions about what it was like and is like to work with Noah Kagan. And his questions were really good. And we eventually formed a friendship. And now I talk to him every month. We talk about our yearly goals and we do monthly check-ins. Really, really good guy. And I asked him recently, like, Brandon, what was your intention when you reached out to me? And a lot of people have like murky intentions of like, oh, you know, like I actually wanted a job or I wanted XYZ. And I think that's a cool byproduct, or it can be a cool intention if one's totally clear about it. But his whole intention was you were working with someone I admired. You got to a place I admired, and I was genuinely curious how I could get to that same place. And there was an innate curiosity with that. And good marketers and good growth people have that innate curiosity, right? And I see it with you. I see it a lot with a lot of other marketers, very curious and understanding of what it is like to be a customer, the trials and tribulations that the pain points this potential prospect or customer go through. And I think there's something there with that.
Yeah, 100%. Someone asked me recently, like, you know, what do you think is the most underrated skill, so to speak, for a marketer or someone who's in like a marketing role? I hate using the word is a marketer because then you like brand yourself in a really weird way.
I agree.
Someone whose job is in marketing.
Good point.
Yeah, someone whose job is in marketing. I think it's curiosity and empathy. I just don't think enough folks like try to really get into the heads of other people in conversations and like try to feel what they're feeling, just because that is like such an interesting way to then, I don't know, it just changes your entire mindset, how you write something on your landing page. Like, what is the copier you're using? What are like the images, or if you're doing like a product demo, Loom video or video recording or whatever, what are you saying? What are you showing? And it's all based on like those things that you've learned when talking to those people in the groups, in the Reddits, forums, in the Facebooks, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It feels like curiosity and empathy are both like invaluable in a role like this, and one that can always be improved to an extent. Like you can never be too curious, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. To wrap up the conversation, looking forward to the future. Marketing is an ever-changing field. And as people who have jobs in marketing, like you said, we don't want to brand ourselves as marketers because I think everyone has a responsibility in marketing, especially if they're a business owner. What things are you really, really excited about in the future with marketing and growth?
So I'm a little biased because I work in software, and that tends to be a lot of the companies that I talk to or consult with or whatever. People tend to be in software who I spend most time with. And what I think has been like an interesting shift is it feels like there's a lot more collaboration and building on top of each other's tools with like APIs and stuff than there was in the past, where it just feels, and I could be completely wrong, and I probably am, but it feels like we're like entering into a more collaborative environment, especially in the software world, where we can start to build on each other's products and use our partners' products to kind of have the, the cheesy 1 + 1 = 3 notion. Whereas like, it's more so like, it feels like there's more of an abundance mentality happening than things where it's more limited and competitive and dog eat dog. That's I think is a super interesting trend that's going on right now, and one that I'm personally excited about. And going to like the surround sound concept, and maybe this is just a shift in my life. I don't know. It seems like there's more and more times, if you just focus on genuinely like helping someone out and you want their business to grow or you want their business to succeed, like it's going to eventually come back around. And that's something we found, whether it's surround sound or whether I personally haven't worked super closely with tapping into other companies' APIs and stuff to build, like acquisition channels through that. But yeah, it just seems like there's a more collaborative mindset going on versus a competitive mindset.
I love that. And it's so true. And really, if the goal of a marketing tool and a product is to help a customer be successful, the truth is they're not just using your product. They're not just using my product. They're just not using HubSpot alone. We've seen that also with giveaways. We're doing partner giveaways, pulling in some partners with maybe what would be viewed as historically competitive products to your own, and saying, hey, I'm going to give away all these products if you join this giveaway, and then sharing the entrance with some of your partners is just a win for everyone. It forms good relationships, oftentimes leads to better results. More people are entering, more people see the giveaway in more places. So any type of partnership we're seeing success with as well. Seems to be working very well.
Yeah. And this isn't a pie in the sky concept too. We should be more collaborative. It sounds very like woo woo in a way, but when I've seen numbers ran across pretty much any other company that I've talked to, retention is higher based on, there's a correlation between product retention and the number of integrations you have with that tool. Because what that means is like, you want to tie together, let's say you have a live chat software or something. You want to tie that live chat with your CRM, and you want to tie that live chat with your email marketing, and you want to tie that live chat with your help desk software or whatever. But if you were that live chat software, you want those integrations to happen because it like ties all pieces of the puzzle together, and it adds a lot more value, and it also increases switching costs too, because it's a pain to not only leave the live chat tool, but the live chat tool is tied to everything else you do. And so having more integrations is like, yeah, sure, it definitely helps with the collaboration, but usually it helps with product retention and revenue retention and getting people to stick around.
I love that. Well, thank you, Scott, for your marketing wisdom for the billions of listeners. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure. I hope we get to at least 2 billion listens on this one.
We'll aim high. Thank you, man.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Experiments with my guest, Scott Tousley. You can go say hi to Scott on Twitter at SJTousley, that's TOUSLEY, or at his site, scotttousley.com. If you want more marketing tips and advice, make sure you subscribe to this podcast. And for bite-sized marketing tips that you can read in under 5 minutes and start to implement, check out my blog at dmkthinks.org or on Twitter at dmkthinks. Thanks for joining. Until next time.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking.
showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.